Welcome to the Greenfield Report with Henry R. Greenfield, your gateway to understanding today's geopolitical landscape. With 50 years of experience across 10 countries, Henry shares expert insights on world affairs, offering practical solutions and engaging guest perspectives. Dive into the Greenfield Report for lively discussions on the issues that matter.
This is Henry R. Greenfield reporting from Budapest, Hungary, with the most important political story in the world, the crushing defeat of the longtime leader and autocrat of Hungary, Viktor Orban. Last night, when Orban conceded, knowing that the opposition leader Peter Magyar had 2/3 of the seats in the parliament already won, Orban knew it was over. What happened will be dissected for years, if not decades to come. Hungarians today said it was their generation's moment, 1956 all over again, or the fall of the wall in 1989, or the revolution even of 1848. Each has a special significance for Hungarians who are a proud, highly educated people who under Orban were increasingly isolated and cut off from the rest of the world, especially the world of the European Union. While Orban lined his pockets with deal after deal, does that sound familiar? Hungarians got poorer and poorer. With a VAT, think tariff, of 27% on everything that comes into or is sold in Hungary, the average person could just not get ahead. When you ask Hungarians why they voted for Peter Magyar, who other than earning their vote, the old-fashioned way I might add, with a Ford Transit van crisscrossing the country for 2 years, there was a great deal of consistency. First, they were tired of the lies and the corruption. Again, does that sound familiar? These were committed Orban voters, by the way, who had supported him for 16 years or longer, all the way back to his previous incarnation as prime minister. Secondly, they were tired of being isolated from the rest of the world, especially, again, from their neighbors in the EU or European Union. They felt they had no allies left and that they could not or should not be going it alone. Why be in the EU, as one guy put it to me, if all you do is fight with them all the time? Third, where did all the money go? Out of control expenditures in several areas, none of which seemed to benefit them. Again, familiar, as in the USA and Trump, spending more and more on defense and not on domestic programs and cutting areas, especially in healthcare. By the way, healthcare was a big deal here also in Hungary, where they have not invested, just like Trump has been cutting healthcare, especially to the poor and the middle class in the United States. Other areas also sounded familiar. Nice to get special programs like low-cost gas, or petrol as they call it here, but who pays for that in the end? As one man said to me, they do, of course, as the country has run very large deficits and owes money to everyone and everywhere. Another major area, to put it bluntly, is they want to have respect back for Hungary once again. They want the world to respect Hungary and not just to have CPAC and other conservative programs or people like J.D. Vance show up and tell them what to do. They particularly resented the double talk of Vance and Trump, and that the response was, hey, we Hungarians will make our own decisions. No one mentioned, by the way, Trump directly, or NATO for that matter, or even Ukraine, except that they were tired, as one taxi driver put it, and which was echoed by everyone I spoke to. We don't want to hear the propaganda anymore. We don't want the billboards in our faces. We don't want to see Orban's face and name on everything. And we especially don't want to see him and his friends always getting every contract and every deal while we get nothing. And while Orban blames everything on the EU and somehow, as they said, which they cannot understand, blames it on Zelensky and Ukraine, it did not go past everyone that they know very clearly that Orban is a deep, deep supporter of Putin and the history of Hungary and all the difficulties that they had by being controlled by Russia, formerly the Soviet Union, for almost 45 years. And now, once again, they seem to be falling into that Russian orbit. That did not sit well with them either. In the end, this election, as James Carville of the United States might have put it, was about the economy, stupid. An economy that was not working and has not worked for the average person in Hungary for a long, long time. An economy that has run almost dead last in the 27-member EU for decades. An economy where the Chinese are getting the deals, that's what Hungarians say, and even the jobs, and not local people. An economy where Orban and his family and friends have benefited disproportionately for at least the past 16 years while he has been prime minister. Every person has a dozen stories on who they have seen benefit from under the table and brazenly open graft deals. As I listened to the stories, I could not help but think of Trump or any of the other autocrats that have been lying for years and decades to their people, with their own supporters, more often than not being the ones that are most hurt. Again, Hungarians brought up inflation and their version of affordability, and how little giveaways by Orban were ridiculous when he was taking billions off the top. Many admitted that they had voted for Orban in the past, sometimes reluctantly, and frankly, I reminded them that they had chosen Orban over and over, as they did not trust, they said, the opposition. And hey, Orban at least was making things go okay, until they were not. Like Trump, Orban promised a lot during COVID, but unlike Trump, Orban did not have to run during the worst part of COVID and weathered that storm. But like Trump, Orban's policies, which Biden changed and righted the ship, Hungary never had that chance. It just continued to drift into the minor backwater spaces of the European Union, while in the U.S. the narrative was completely off, but well hijacked by Trump, who refused to admit defeat in 2020 and hounded Biden and a very ineffective Democratic leadership who felt that somehow Biden's accomplishments would be enough. Again, they were not. And when Biden had to fall on his sword after a terrible debate performance against Trump, the die was cast. For Orban, the emergence of a young, dynamic, former party guy, Peter Magyar, should have been enough for him to change. But like Trump, Orban doubled down. For years, you could not drive through Budapest without dozens, if not hundreds of posters, and how great was Orban, and how he had saved the country from George Soros, a 90-plus-year-old septuagenarian at this point, or not always beyond that, octogenarian, nonagenarian. Always it was Soros's fault, or it was the EU's fault, or it was anyone's fault but Viktor Orban. The media, now thoroughly owned and controlled by Orban. Again, just think about that with Trump now, and always doing obediently and parroting everything that Orban said, while Orban, of course, would then complain that the media was against him, when in fact, actually, they were supporting him. But in the end, the Orban train was running out of steam. His running around with Trump and Vance and every other American MAGA politician got on the nerves of the average Hungarian, who is getting less and less. Again, the parallels with the USA are uncanny. While Trump is constantly playing golf and doing deals openly in the billions, the average person, according to Trump, is paying thousands in tariffs, which Trump somehow seems to think he can lie his way into and also out of. Orban, like Trump, had control on the courts, and like Trump, he could pretty much do anything he wanted. But in the end, the people of Hungary still had their vote, which is exactly what they said to me and what I spoke to them over and over about over the past 16 years. They had not been ready to listen, however, in the past. In fact, they would go into a sort of denial when we would talk about the 27% tax on everything, or the fighting with the EU getting them nowhere, or the support of Trump, who had borrowed the famous Orban playbook, but had not benefited Hungary a single bit, especially not the average person. This time the Hungarians had a choice a young 45-year-old center-right, very slick politician, someone who looks a bit like another version of Gavin Newsom of California. But would or will Gavin Newsom get out there and work for it for the next 2.5 years? Or will anyone else do that in the United States like Magyar did here in Hungary? Or will they simply rely on the philosophy and the strategy of anyone but Trump one more time? The Democrats may win the midterms in 2026 and even set up a victory in 2028. But the defeat of Orban by Peter Magyar shows the real path to victory is in getting out to the people and not paying any attention to the propaganda. You may recall in previous episodes of the Greenfield Report that I talked about this over and over in my time in the rural areas of the United States, Nebraska, and other places where they have not seen a Democratic politician, in some places, for many, many years. That cannot happen if you want to be able to win. It is not only possible, but even in a conservative country like Hungary, they know their votes counted. And this time, they used it to take down the biggest populist, the one and only Viktor Orban, who Trump has borrowed just about everything from, and who Trump, even a day before the election, made a call while J.D. Vance was there and said to the crowd that Viktor Orban was his best friend. From no immigration by Orban to yes by Orban on a guest worker program, a big one, in fact, at over 500,000 workers, while Trump just keeps on kicking out hardworking immigrants. In fact, you could say Trump has done a far worse job or a far more powerful job of implementing the Orban playbook along with Project 2025. Trump has clearly overplayed his hand, but the Democrats are not out there just yet. Not like Peter Magyar was out there, and trust me, to take down Orban is a feat that will be written down in the history books in not just Hungary, but in the European Union, and not just there, but in the political science books and strategies for years, if not decades to come. Hungary has turned a page, and Orban conceded in a flash when he saw how decisively he had lost. Will Trump do that, or will he play his Roy Cohn victim card once again to the very end? If I were a Democrat, I would count on Trump lying and cheating no matter what happens. But most of all, I would be out there talking to the people in every state. I hear, by the way, there's a slightly used black Ford Transit van available. You might even get it cheap here in Hungary and ship it back to the States and replicate it and put one in every county in the entire United States and get those Democrats out there to speak and listen to the people. They will tell you what is important if you listen to them, and you will be able to crush Trump, not just in 2026, but whoever runs on the Republican side in 2028 and beyond. Are you listening, Democrats? Hey, Chuck Schumer. Hey, AOC. Hey, Elizabeth Warren, who sat with AOC in a television presentation on why childcare is the most important thing to American women. But of course, there were no American women there. And AOC has said that she's not having children because of ethical reasons. Are the Democrats ever going to get it? By the way, there is an example. Remember Zoran Mamdani? Now, he listened and he won. He beat a career politician when nobody said that he had a chance. You know, you have a local version, sure. It's blue New York City right there, but he is always smiling and talking and listening. And he even talks to Trump. And Trump even respects him. Does that tell you anything, Democrats? Are the rest of the Democrats listening or ready to actually change and make a change and end the nightmare of Donald Trump as the Hungarians decisively have ended their 16-year trauma and thrown out Viktor Orban, the king of illiberalism, and with it, its death in Europe and perhaps in America? It is too early to tell, but the blueprint is there if the Democrats or anyone else wants to follow and has the courage to be able to do what Peter Magyar did. This is Henry R. Greenfield, signing off on our first part of our series on the defeat of Viktor Orban in Hungary and the meaning of what that will be for the rest of the world. Our next segment, we will bring back Dr. Eric Hendricks, a global expert on China, as the politics of the EU, who lives right here in Budapest.
Thank you for joining us on the Greenfield Report with Henry R. Greenfield. We hope today's insights into the ever-shifting geopolitical landscape have sparked your curiosity and broadened your perspective. Stay connected with us for more in-depth discussions and expert solutions. Until next time, keep exploring the world beyond the headlines.